ceremony. It is very unfortunate,
This
and
call is now being recorded.
we got very great loss to particularly in Hyderabad
We
Center.
can have 1 minute silence.
Yeah, yeah, that's same thing, sir. Same thing. So, in that sad occasion, we request all of you please maintain 1 minute silence by standing at their places. Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Really, it is a very great loss to our IET Hyderabad Center. He's very active member. Not necessary to tell about him. And every webinar is a continuous attendee. And whenever I'm coming late, also immediately give a warning to me. You are already came late and like that. So he's very punctual and always he will think over about the IET, even though he's left the IET Hyderabad Center long back. Still is with very great association with our IET Hyderabad Center, and is also our vice chairman of our IET Hyderabad Center Advisory Committee also. Anyway, because we are unable to get him out of this loss to IET Hyderabad Center. Okay. Now resume our webinar. I request our chairman Jnaneshwara Garu to give the welcome address.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Garu. Respected today's webinar speaker, Kiran Garu, and senior member, our governing council member, Arjinder Singh Bhatia Garu, and senior member Sarveshwar Garu, and all the EC members, DC members, students, faculty, and attendants of this weekly webinar series. I welcome you all for this 68th webinar of the knowledge sharing session. So as mentioned by our secretary, sir, it's a great loss to us. Only the thing is, his soul will be at peace when as predecessors of this IET, when we make the things in a better way, so that that itself is the thing we can do. So we all will work for the betterment of the IET and the society to help the students and the faculty and all the IET corporate members. That's what I feel. So coming back to the event, see, last year we could not conduct because you all know that we have celebrated our IET Hyderabad Center's 48th Foundation Day, and also ISF Awards ceremony we have done at our IET campus. And most of the senior members, like our senior presidents, as well as what we call uh, Padma Shri Dikshitulu sir and the Hanuman Chaudhary sir, past President Narayana sir, and even our president from Delhi. He has a Prabhakar sir, Wing Commander Prabhakar sir, and about 200 plus students. They all gathered to grace the occasion. The program was went on very well, conducted very nicely, and during that event, we have given the awards to best ISF center as well as the ISF coordinators also. So from different colleges like Vidya Jyoti, Bharat Institute, St. Peter's, and many what we call that GNIT, Vasavi, and Stanley colleges have secured Best Center and Coordinators awards respectively. So we congratulate them and we keep work like this. So since the physical events also we are planning to conduct very shortly. So next Sunday we are on 30th, we'll be conducting IET Foundation Day. That is at the national levels Foundation Day we'll be conducting. So we hope you all will join with us. And in the coming week also, we'll be starting one more event. That is what we call that. Kirtilata will be conducting that online course. Online course it will be. So there will be an online course. We'll update you the details very shortly. So please,
Short-term course.
short-term course. It's a short-term course. We'll inform to all the members through our WhatsApp. Please attend that also. So that is also very interesting course, and you all know that IET works on a non-profitable mode, and many experts like today's Kiran and all will be coming forward to help this IET society. So now we'll be conducting this today's webinar on the topic applied artificial intelligence in bioinformatics and robotics by our expert Kiran. Then we'll be happy to enjoy this session by Kiran. Hope you all will attend this event and enjoy the session and ask the questions whatever you have at the end of the session. Hope you be with us like this only to further continue this webinar series. Thank you all. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, sir, for your nice welcome address. And of course, as a routine, our continue our webinars. It is the 69th webinar with all your cooperation. We are successfully conducting these webinars and also 42nd knowledge sharing session. Our IET Hyderabad Center is the second largest center in India, and which is completed 48 years. And last year we have celebrated the Foundation Day, which is established in October 11th, 1973. And so far we are completed 48 years. And that day, and also our IET Hyderabad Center is introduced best ISF centers and also best ISF coordinator centers also in our Hyderabad jurisdiction. In Hyderabad jurisdiction, about 90 plus engineering IET students forums are there, and out of this one, 40 plus are very active, and we called for nomination, and we are selected out of this received nominations, first best ISF chapter and also second best ISF chapter, and also one we are given for consolation also. And similarly, to encourage the ISF coordinators, so who are actually motivating all the students to become the membership, we are also introduced ISF coordinator, best ISF coordinator awards also for 2021, that is July to June. And also we are given first best ISF coordinator and also second best ISF coordinator and also consolation prize the ISF coordinator also. The program is went on well and physically, and we are completed their celebrations. And and today, and also next week on this 18th onwards, we are conducting a short-term course also. And I think already we are circulated this poster also. So please encourage your students. It is a certified course. It is a certified course, NI certified course. So I request kindly forward the same thing to all your known students and other fraternity like faculty and etc. And kindly make it a grand success. Now I request our Ashwini Kumar, Vice Chairman, IET Hyderabad Center, to introduce our today's speaker, Mr. Kinnara Kiran.
Please unmute, sir. Ashwin, sir.
Thank you, Namashiva Garu. It's a privilege to introduce our today's guest speaker, Mr. Kinnara Kiran. He is a fellow of IET and senior member IEEE USA, and currently working as Senior Technical Officer 2 in the Division of Process Engineering and Technology Transfer at CSIR Hyderabad. He has got many awards and honors. Some of them are listed here. CSIR IICT R&D Service Award for significant contribution in the area of process automation, and fellow of IET, senior member IEEE. A research paper published in the Computational Biology and Chemistry is ranked among the top 25 papers in the year 2008. He is a senior member of International Society of Automation, USA. And he has published a research paper on artificial intelligence to identify mosquitoes is attracted and cited under research highlights of Nature India 2008. He has got a professional membership of following institutes: life member of Institute of Engineers India, life member of Indian Unit for Pattern Recognition and Artificial Intelligence, life member of Instrumentation Society of India. He has completed BTech in Electronics and Communication Engineering from Kakatiya Institute of Technology, Warangal. Then he has completed ME in Systems and Signal Processing from Usmania University Engineering College. At present, he is pursuing PhD in Engineering Sciences. He has started his career as a lecturer in SRIT Engineering College, Nizamabad. Subsequently, he moved to CSIR, Hyderabad. And in the year 2013, he became technical officer. And in the year 2018, he became senior technical officer. And in the from 2013 to 2018, he was working as senior technical officer at CSIR, and subsequently he became senior technical officer 2 at CSIR. And his topic today is applied artificial intelligence in bioinformatics and robotics, which is the most important today and more relevant. And we keep on hearing in the news about the development activities that have been carried out by CSIR during COVID time and all those things. So most hopefully this will be a very interesting topic to all of us. With this brief background, I hand over the session to Nuli Namashivaya to carry forward. Thank you, Nuli Namashivaya.
Thank you, sir. Without any wasting any of time between the speakers and audience, and I request Mr. Kinnara Kiran to start your webinar.
Good morning, all of you, sir. I think, is it a knowledge sharing session? Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
you're audible.
Thank you. So as a knowledge sharing session, I'll just go by my timeline. I'll go for 15 years, I think 2005 or 6, the timeline, where AI models are developing.
So a little bit more louder, sir. Little bit more louder, little bit.
Yes, sir, yes. So we know that now we have more models are available with us, either in TensorFlow or in Keras. All AI models are available. I think if I go to around 2007 or 18, when I want to work on AI, so I'll just share my work experience, how it started. Starting with developing a neural network models for the bioinformatics applications or the process applications. When I joined, industry is going on 3.0. You know that industry 3.0 is all industries are going in PC based one. So all we go for LabVIEW based automation, everything that. So I'll split my work as well as a basic work and applied work. Coming to the basic work, that application of artificial intelligence is a basic work, and coming to the applied work, I'll see that's automation. Today's talk, I'll restrict it to the only what is applied artificial intelligence for my basic work what I started in 2007. So as I told you that now there are a lot of like deep learning models are there, already developed models are there. But when you writing a code from scratch, writing the ANN code in a C language and implementing on the an application, it was a little bit challenging at the time. It's 2007 times. So when I got to know that, I went to apply on a gene classification on AI. So that is a thought, you know that. So I'll just take in a case of what are the models I developed for gene classification. Then I will share with you that. So I think it will be interesting for you. I'll start in my session. So I think my slides are visible now. Is it very visible to you? My slides are.
Yeah, visible.
Thank you, sir. So we know that what AI will do that, like it's for decision making, and presently what is AI? It has to think like a human being or a more than a human being. that you should design a machine such that it has to equal to the human being or more than human being. So it has to take what are the inputs from the real-time system and has to be adapt to the system and has to learn and adapt, and it has to make a decision out of that. So we know that what today's world is taking with of understanding text or image or audio or video, or for the advanced control or in robotic control systems or any other option, any other science applications. We AI is dealing with very big data and handling the correct decision out of it. So we are now already listening these buzzwords: AI, machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning. So the primary difference between AI and machine learning is that the speech extraction will be happen in deep learning, but not in machine learning. Machine learning it's like a mathematical tools that can classify the works and classify the big data and thing. But when you go for the deep learning or the extension of what is the difference between AI and deep learning is you have more hidden layers and more the deeper level of the classification exists with the deep learning models. So the basic thing is that when the feature extraction, if you do not know for feature extraction, like if it's unsupervised learning, you do not know output, just a classification example, you go for the deep learning model. So I am here, I just want to explain the two things that I worked in this one. So what is bioinformatics and robotics? What is bioinformatics? Bioinformatics is it's an application of computer technology, the management of biological information. So we have a biology, chemistry part, computer science part, and statistics. So you have a information in a biology, either it's a structure, either it is a data, either it is a any numerical data, or it is a sequential data that can be done if you classify in that. So that if you apply any statistical methods or computer science methods, if you apply on the biology, that will be the bioinformatics. Obviously, mathematics also comes to picture, mathematics and statistics. So, like, what is aim of band? Like, what is organizing the data, and the aim of the band is start with what is the data is available with our system, and proper analysis of the data required, and how you interpret the data. That will be the thing. So here I've given two pictures in that. One is mosquito gene and another one protein classification. So one is gene and one is protein. These are the major things that we're dealing with AI now. So that I want to how it will deal with this AI. So I just thinking about this is about around 2007 and 8 times of that. That times there are no tools to make a gene classification is available for a computational tools are not available that time people want to know that, so get the structures of each gene for each species. So we know that every species have its own gene, even for the same species, same subspecies, and each person to person, each what you call living thing to another living thing, there will be difference between the gene. If you find out that what is exactly change of that, then you can easily classify by that. So that one, if you apply an efficient and intelligent computational tool such that it can varies what is the change of one gene to another gene. So if you analyze the data sets of all gene sequences, and if you make a decision out of it, that will be the structure modeling, that will be the decision making of AI using the total number of genes, and total we get a lot of big data from the one gene, one living thing, and one subspecies, and one thing we get it done. Here I have taken a mosquito species as for the gene classification. So why it is required? Well, because why gene is required? Because the gene only tells you that, like as you said in COVID or something, that your gene is like you have for the it is only representing that for you, especially for human being. It only representing how much immunity you have, how much the what you call the parental diseases you are getting, and everything depends on the structure of the genes and how the change is coming from your parental or your family thing. Then the gene is structuring that. So that is one of the case in now. It is what is the gene you have, if you consider as a human being, but here I'm talking only about the mosquito species. There are a lot of species are very harmful in India, mosquitoes, which can cause to the severe malaria cases in the cases. If you classify the which are the subspecies are more dangerous to human being, if you know that areas, and if you know the ecological thinking that where those mosquitoes are living, if you remove that, then the most diseases will be cured. That so. Here we will take a gene of a mosquito species and we'll see that how it is classified and what are the difference in that gene. So we know that what is gene sequence. For me that time I was no knowledge about the biology. We know from the engineering background, so I know only the structure of the gene. It is have only the 4 words. What is A, T, G, C? A always connect with the T and G always connect with that either way. So we know that if you take any gene of it, so I know it's maybe at 300 length or 1000 length or 20,000 length, depends on the living thing. So I only know that every gene is consist of a structure of ATGC, but difference on that. The only thing is the difference is the what is the variation of the, and the combination of that is only specify the living thing, the species. That is the only thing that. So we know that always A with the T and C with G and G with C. So if I have taken all mosquito species gene sequences in the structure of ATGC, I'll show you that. So as I said that I'm taking mosquito one, like why? Because mosquito is the worst enemy of mankind. We'll see that there are a lot of animals, but we know that there are other mosquitoes. We have mostly in India we have more malaria mosquitoes on there, and that we can and we have more dengue in India. So if you find out which subspecies causing those malaria and dengue in this, so then if you classify in that, then it will be solved, that we can know that we can how to implement a solution according to the place and what is the subspecies available in our India region that can be solved. So there are we have taken 3,500 species of mosquitoes. In that, we know that mosquitoes have 3 things: Anopheles, Aedes, and Culex. So we have taken 3,500 in that one. 430 or 450 are Anopheles, and 30 to 40 for malaria. So if you take the, there are only few subspecies causes malaria. All mosquitoes won't causes malaria. So if you find out that will be job will be done. So I'm just see that how India, in which countries have more kind of Culex, and what is more kind of Aedes are available. That like we have Anopheles having so much geographic locations like Colombia and Venezuela, Bolivia, and those are the more affected areas of Anopheles mosquitoes subspecies. But luckily we have only 30% of mosquito species are causes the malaria. So I'll show the structure of that. Yeah, this is the basic structure. As I told you that if you take one Anopheles mosquito or something, that the structure will be, as I told, only the combination of ATGC. Every gene is a combination of ATGC. So if it is, if you see that there is a difference between, I think my pointer won't show you, I think, but if you see the first and second and third and fourth, you can see the difference of the combinations for the same Anopheles. But it is very difficult to find out which is the subspecies, which is the thing. So we need to get we need a model to classify these subspecies, and how we solve this is one thing. So before going that, I'll one sec. I'll give a brief about NN. We know that NN consists of. Sir, I may go with the introduction for this one. I don't think I'll. So okay, I'll go with it. Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go
Yes.
ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So we know that NN consists of 3 layers: input, hidden, and output layer. If you increase the hidden layers spaces, then it will automatically become the deep learning model. So we know that information processed from input to hidden to the output, and we have a weights, and which is initialized weights, and we have actually what is the advantage writing your own A code is that, like, instead of using like as I said TensorFlow or Keras, that you know that at which parameter you need to change, and you know you have the total structure of AI such that you can change this. You can change what is the processing function, like sigmoid, either the sigmoid or Gaussian function or the tangent function. What you want to use that function, or the number of hidden nodes, number of layers, and the what is the activation function you want to use, and the learning rate, momentum factor, which are considerable, which are the variables you need required for the designing of AI model. That if you write your own code, then you have every way control of every variable in your hand. So that's why I'm just explaining the process of designing a AI model. So we know that what is if any model it's not working in AIMS, that depends on the number of layers, how many layers you will take, like how many hidden layers will take. That is a deep learning model, you will do that, and number of nodes in each layer. So how many nodes you will take in hidden layer nodes. So that the complexity and classification will explain, and how the interconnection schemes and the activation function, as I discussed, that you can use a sigmoid function for each node. What is a function you will take that will be the more important thing that you will designing the activation function. That because every time we'll take 1 by 1 plus e to power minus exponential terms automatically regenerates the data into the sum structure. But when you have to go for the e power x plus e to the power of minus x by e to the power of x plus e to the power of minus x, that is a tangent function, or you will go for the Gaussian function. That will be here I'll tell you that if you're choosing an AI model, that people will think that that is a lock and key system. We do not know which model will open which lock. So that's it's also one kind of trial and error. We are by seeing the non-linear of the data, then which model you need to apply AI on that systems. And also we network parameters also depends on the learning rate and the momentum factor, that is how much fast it has to learn the function that is in the equation. I'll explain you further that how learning rate and momentum factors implies on your generalization, and how your generalization phase and generalization ability, that is means training and prediction. So how a training will affect that, how much iterations you need to go that, and how much strong you do have to train for the system before the prediction, before the test, then how much accuracy required to get the such a results for that, then you have to go for that. So what is the general procedure for the ANN? First, you give the input and output data. As I said here are taking as a mosquito as the input, and we have taken another output, but that we considering the outputs are these are to the our values, such that because it's a supervised and supervised learning, for the classification person, I made it to supervising. I've taken my outputs for the different spaces. So we have selected the network configuration, which selected version. Either you want to go for neural networks or radial basis function networks and other neural networks. And I train the network such that all the species should be trained, all subspecies should be trained to one sequence, and all the other subspecies taken to another output, such that we are classifying in the supervised manner, such that all one subspecies of one mosquito will come under the one output. That's then now after getting the error, calculate the and go for the using the what are the functions you use for like steepest descent or any optimization function to reduce the error. So such that this iteration has to go such that the training error will be less and your accuracy should be more. So then again, send those models which are not trained to this model and get outputs and get predicted, which is clearly classifying data. You have to check the prediction error also. This is just general processor for ANN. So I'm just telling the training algorithms. If you know that's in the first equation we write the weights, sigma of weights plus inputs plus a biased input. So we're calculating at each node of the hidden node, the calculating the weights of initialized weights plus the input. Then we're calculating the activation functions as OPJ. I used here as sigmoid function. You can use in any activation function. 1 by 1 plus e to the power of SPG. After this output of this activation function, again I'm going for the output. I'm calculating for the output. So I'm taking a single output. So if it is a single output, if we're taking for the SPK value, the weights of the hidden nodes to output node into the output of the activation function OPK plus even some bias one. Again, I'm taking an activation function in that output node also. That is OPK is equal to 1 by 1 plus e power of minus SPK, the output of the function. That we know that. Now we know that we processed our values to the entire neural network system. Now we got one value, but we know the actual value. If you difference that one, you will get an error. Here, our objective is to reduce that error. So how you reduce the error? So if you go for steepest descent, what do you call, if it is error with respect to steepest descent, dou E by dou W is equal to 0. So we respect to the weight function, we'll calculate the error function as a 0. So dou E by dou, when you compute with the dou E by dou W, you will get the value of the what is the parameters need to change in the weights. That is only calculates that what is the error should be minimum. So we know here what is the change of weights. For we have to calculate for that. So the change of weights delta W is equal to that eta into delta OPK and gamma into delta WK. As I said, what is as now we know these values, and eta is the learning rate. So how much fast it has to converge to this one. So that is a scaling factor. So how much fast you want to know the change of weights. This whole process has to go for such iterations that the total error has to come to the 0 or near to the 0. So once it was over, the training is over, we have to go for the test case. So how I have taken for the I've taken for DNA sequences, like a different type of analysis. We have a data collection from National Center for Biotechnological Information, NCBI, is having a open data for gene classification for every living thing mostly, and have taken for the iTunes data sequence from there, NCBI data sequences. So I have taken all the type of data for Mosquito, Anopheles, Aedes, and Culex. And for the every subspecies I've taken. So we know, I think I have got one problem that the length of the gene is not constant to one subspecies to another subspecies. So here my main objective has become to maintain a constant length because if inputs for any AI model or neural networks is constant once you start with your algorithm. So, but here the species length is not constant. So I have to make, so I made I made approximately 500 input length, and which is coming very less for that, which is not having 500 length. Then I made circular motion of the same sequence to show that it is only the replica of other things are added, such that we made it a circular motion, means we added from the first again, and the same structure will be repeated again, such that I made a constant length for that. So I've taken 18 species of every Anopheles and Culex and Aedes of that. So as I told you that this is a sequence for everything. So as I said, first and second and third, fourth are the different lengths. So I made it which are very less. I copied the first sequences which is starting is a circular motion, such that it consists of 500 length. And one more thing, and this is an it's not numerical. So what we need to do, A won't take the structures. Again, we need to go for character recognition. No, I think it's not about the characterization. I want a numerical data out of this. So how I've tried for the initially ASCII code, like what is ASCII number for that? Then it is I not achieve the accuracy with ASCII code of what is AT, GC. Then I went for the binary code. Why I would go for the binary code? Such that all zeros and ones will be there, and my model error will be 0. Then I tried that. So in this one, I've tried different models like multi-input and single output and multi-input, multi-output, and the hierarchical model for the classification purpose. So we know that. So here, multi-input, single output. As the name says that we have only single output node, but we are because single output is very too easy to get training and the accuracy will be there. But when we having a mismatching error, single output won't solve the problem. But for the accuracy point of view, single output will solve, will get good accuracy out of that. So as I said that I've given a ATGC as a numerical values. Yeah, I'll show you that. So what I've given, we know that ATGC inputs are, if you give a binary value, I've given A for 1000, C is 0100, T is 0010, and Z is 0011. Then if that structure is repeatedly for the combination of all the ATGC in a gene sequence, then I've replaced all these combination into a numerical model, and I've given to the single output neural network model. So I've given to the all input layer, then I've calculated the similar way that how ANN model started. Then I've trained for the all species of the Anopheles. All species of the Anopheles. So if you different Anopheles species are there, but here I need, if I train for the all NL species, I need to code for the outputs also. So how I coded for that? Yeah, here you see that because it's an unsupervised, I made it to supervised learning by taking a one, because all species of Anopheles arbitraries are 10. So like every subspecies I have taken as a 100 subspecies, and I've taken all 100 subspecies as to train to the such the output for 10. So I made it to classify in such a way that so all anthropologists and all the arbitraries and the benefits like that, every subspecies of Anopheles, I made it a numerical value. Now it is easy to classify. When I trained 100 subspecies into 10 and 100 subspecies 20, it has to, in the training model, it has to give, it has to train such that, so it has accurately, it has to fall in that area. After getting the training only, we get to know that untrained sequence, which is there in Anopheles albitracis, has to send to the NN model. So if you say this prediction one, in the first and I think fourth and the last one, there is a little deviation is there, but most of the trained, most of the sequences, most of the untrained sequences within model, if I send to this model, that is almost falling on the same subspecies model. So this is for the Anopheles. Like it is, if you compare for the, because it is single output, so it is for the actual output and predicted output, it is falling in the same one, even for the untrained sequence. Yeah, it's as I told you that it is for the Anopheles. So I told you for the ADs also I've done the same thing for the different models. We got the same result, and the QLEX also. Like if you train for the Anopheles, ADs, and QLEX, it is falling as per the 10, 20, 30, 40. So it is almost giving the same thing. So this is for the training picture. This one for the prediction. So when you send to the in the untrained ADs one to the model, it will just training for that, and untrained to the Anopheles one, it is giving the actual output. There is some deviation in third and sixth. That is an error because it's not 100% accurate. It's almost 98.39 accuracy is got it. So we can see that if you zoom it, there will be some deviation will be available. It was a zoom out picture, so it's almost showing that. I want to show that different species classification. That's why I shown this diagram for that. Similarly for the QLEX. So we have taken for every QLEX subspecies, Anopheles subspecies with 100 species, and which one subspecies having 100 samples for the training, and made this model for out of it. As I told, that is just because SONN is very easy for accuracy point of view, but the classify, because if you send to the another untrained sequence to the model, it has to match somewhere to the another model, another species also. That is the one criteria we will see in the when you're analyzing in a confusion matrix, when you're analyzing AA model, we'll go for the confusion matrix. We'll go for variable falling on that. So I'll take in for the MI multi-output neural model also, such that we can get the variation. We know the variance, and when in the comparison also, maybe some species fall in equal to the another like Aedes and Anopheles subspecies. Maybe they related to each other. That way can be solved by using the same procedure what I've done for the MON. Here only the output nodes are different. So for that, I think this picture was not clear, but I'll explain you that. So like as I said, I've given 10, 20, 30, 40 for like the single output. Here I've made a binary outputs. Like if I have 4 outputs means 0.0, 0.0, 0.04 and 0.3, 0.00, like that. I made it to 0 to 1 combination into a 4 output node, such that I want to see that is there any similarity between species as well as subspecies. So we know that we represented in multiple representation species using this, and we know that which is falling under which model is falling under which one. I'm just skipping the configuration. I'll come back to that. So as I told, the same process happened to be that, like what is MON has happened, and the same process happened to the what is single output neural model. So we're doing the same process, get this information and get the train for that, and we'll see the prediction one, and we are getting the 100% accuracy of 100% recall ability we are getting or not, and we are getting the prediction of R in generalization phase as well as the prediction phase, and we are checking for that. So here one more concept I want to know, that hidden law nodes concept. Like sometimes like learning rate, momentum factor, and number of hidden nodes, number of hidden layers are the more important factors in designing a model. But the one another important factor, that is number of hidden nodes also. Sometimes you see that overfitting or it's not fitting happening, that because of number of hidden nodes. Sometimes we think in that if you have more number of hidden nodes, the more complexity will increase and the more analysis will think. But sometimes we get away from the solution with a small number of hidden nodes. For when I've started with the number of hidden nodes are 1 to 20, that's I got it 4 or 16 only. I got an optimum solution. So it is not the easy that like if you have more number of hidden nodes or less number of hidden nodes, that has to be as also a trial and error case that you should consider when designing a AA model. So if, like I said, when we given where is the comparison, if you compare it with the last chart, where is single output model, then there is no case. But when you send to this one, the few things will fall in other categories also. So if you see that in the diagram, there is a class. If you send another sequence from another model, it is somewhere linking between similarity of that, and it is falling in that. So you can easily classify like in the confusion matrix, you can easily classify that how much it is relevant to the another species and how much is not relevant, and how accurately it is predicted. So as the accuracy point of view, then multiple output is not that much. It is approximately, I get 92% only, but it need to be trained, as I told you that it need to be get another activation function, or I should use another optimization function. I use a steepest descent method. Instead of steepest descent method, you should go for another activation function. So these are the two models I've discussed that. Now I'll go for the third one. Like if you use the multiple AA models in a structure such that it is hierarchically classified. The first model it will classify, is it a species, or which species belongs, Aedes or Anopheles and Culex, and we have another model for each species, and that model will consider the subspecies classification. One second. Here we are used 4 AA models. First model is classifying the species level. Other 3 models are classifying in subspecies level. So here, the advantage here that, like as I told you that previously you have multiple connectivity in that. So here the complexity will be reduced by using hierarchical method. If you put all the models into a one structure, and if you made into out of that will be, it's a very difficult to analyze that nonlinear data. But if you know that which species belongs to which and which, as I said, the misclassification will ends here, because you already used the developed models and used for the prediction. Already Aedes, Anopheles, and Culex previously I've shown that trained models that I'm showing here. So here, the pros of and cons, when you discuss about this, the pros is that the complexity will reduce, and as I said, I can't say con, but you have to develop multiple ANN models and you have to train for each parameter and each species level, and you have to including this in hierarchical methods. So here, if you use this one, you know that like as a previous combination of single models, you'll get the accurate prediction. The only thing you have to have a multiple AI models. So it has perfectly predicted that output. There is some diversion is there. As I said, it's some zoom out picture is there. It's not 100% showing that. There will be something is available for actual output and predicted output. There will be some error is there, but that is a negligible error coming to the classification point of view. So I put in all the images into one picture, such that is it falling into the same species or not? The all Aedes or Anopheles and Culex. I've taken few samples and I've untrained samples I've given to this model. It's accurately predicting that. So as I said, in a hierarchical, some here you can easily classify that which is falling in which is. So I only seen that 99% match is there, that is falling in that. Other things are falling in some other ways, because somewhere it is a connection between the species, and somewhere I made into the binary because of 0 and 1s. So if it is AWGC values, I have taken 0 and 1s. So somewhere it is resembles the, somewhere it is comparison to the other species, the similarity will be there. So those things are there. So which is 99% matching that output, 100% output, that is falling on that neural systems. So I will end this application of how application for that. I can go with the robot model, or I can have questions now.
Hello.
Yeah, if there are any questions, you can go ahead on bioinformatics. Please, sir, go ahead, sir.
Shall I?
Yeah, please, sir.
Shall I put the question?
Please, sir. Please, sir.
I have Dr. Veerbhadra. You are referring AI for the DNA, maybe for DNA classification, may not be getting that unique length DNA sequence for each mosquitoes. And you said there are some more than 3,000 categories of mosquitoes. So what I feel is, in getting the DNA, you're not using artificial intelligence. You may be using the artificial intelligence to classify those into the 3,000 types of mosquitoes. Is it true?
Yes, yes, sir. 100%.
Okay, thank you.
It's not for getting DNA. It's a classifying that.
Because,
So now,
because in DNA, getting the DNA itself, we have got that comma-free codes, what you call the 20 amino acids out of these 4 bases, which are starting with the alphabets A, T, C, G.
Okay.
So, and all these people, our Watson and Goulomb, they wrote a paper in 1957 in Canadian Journal of Mathematics, how this particular comma-free code is available and how we are able to detect the garbage in the total DNA. And you know, our human genome was completed, project was completed in 2000 itself. And at that time, there was no artificial intelligence. And they have used only the Markov and hidden Markov models.
Hidden Markov models, yes, sir.
Right.
I know, sir. So I thought I know that because now the more tools came for the classification. So this is done I think in 2012 or something. Now the more models are available that AI models are available for this very purpose. The classification. So any questions? Can I continue with this?
Yeah, you can go ahead with your robotics. This one.
Yeah, I think so. That developing models for this one. So as I told you that I've drawn in automation for that. Now that in automation only the PC based one is there. So taking the only variables which are available in the plant and getting it for the control system point of view. Now after the industry 3.0 to industry 4.0, what happened? More of HMA applications are developed in the industry, and most of Internet of Things happen in industry. Like you getting the information for logging and for your mobile networks or your for any control systems engineering, everything will be under your either in HMA machines or your robot or in your apps or everything will be. Now, as people are talking about the more buzzwords, Industry 5.0. Industry 5.0 is consist of AI, robotics based automation of that, like applications of AI in the like we know that morely in Industry 5.0 is morely of AI models. AI models will take decisions out of any control parameters in temperature or pressure or any industry measurements like you need to control sometimes flow or you need to come you get some yield out of you need to get more yield and economic industries. You're thinking that people are want to use AI models such that you will get not only for the control purpose, you'll get more output and industrial output and yield out of any system, or you'll get economic way of dealing the real-time system. And now the people are using for want to use for like in a pandemic situation, every one person wants to go for no one wants to go to lab or industry to look after what is happening in that what is happening now. It is a pandemic situation. There is very less manpower is maintaining the industries, which is now maybe in PC based one and or IoT based one or mobile based one, like what is like app based control things. Or now if it is either it is a AI based or robot arms works in the industry now, especially in the pandemic situation like this, it's very I think it's a very useful that. So as I don't know as Industry 5.0 started or not, but in the theoretical point of view, like when I'm working with a like what do you call it? The mathematical model, how a robot worm works. Like what is I think my way of dealing with, as I told you that in the data, taking the data, or how what do you do this if you model a real-time system into a mathematical model, and if you get the data out of it and if you implement on the prototype out of it, and then you will get the implementation thing further. So I'll just say that we know that I've taken one basic example of two-link robot. We know that it's just a nonlinear operation of torque versus angle. So how much torque is applied on robot arm, that how much angle changes in the arm, that will be a mathematical a second order differential equations. So we know that torque versus angle, how much momentum is required, is it's interlinked. When you consider as a two-link robot arm, then you get to know that the dynamic model of the robot arm. So but it is a second order equations. So if you have a second order equations, there are many ways to make it to second order to first order, or many other ways that you have numerical integration methods to make into happen that your differential equation solve to the real time, and you need a few assumptions to make a mathematical model of the robot arm. So we know the dynamical model of the robot arm, that is in function of torque and the constants. What are the constants required and the things are there. So I'll just see the mathematical expression out of it. So how much torque you apply, how much robot arm movement is there, that is theta of that. So if you make into the state space representation for the second order equations, you have a final robot arm. If you solve those equations like into that, so if you solve those integrations methods, you'll get the final robot arm model in terms of the first order equations and things are there. Then how generally we'll go for a numerical integration methods like Runge-Kutta methods. So I have used Runge-Kutta-Butcher methods for the numerical integration of the mathematical model of the robot arm. So then after the solving of that robot model, I want to use for A model, what is the prediction model out of it? So if we know that is a mechanical action of the robot arm, so if we know that how much torque you applied, how much robot arm has to move in a simulation model, if that display, as I told you that in the process industry or in any chemical industry or in any manufacturing industry, if you predict that what will happen in the near future, such that even for the temperature rise or pressure rise or the flow rise or some alarming situations like you have disaster management, if that in that case, if you find out the fault, if you diagnose what is the fault in that process before that will happen, for the safety point of view also, you get to know where to stop and you create to stop the process, such that in the same case for the robot arm also, like if you already made a model of mathematical out of that and this is in theoretical, it is not I've done in an implementation model. It is in theoretical model. Like if you know the how a two-link robot arm moves as per your mathematical model, and you get the data out of the simulation model, and if you use a model such that if you predict what will happen with that arm, or isn't anything wrong goes wrong, because if you solving any integration problem means we are making any assumptions out of it. So what are the assumptions we are making? Integration in, especially in the second order equations. So first you have to consider to the first order equations, and that is then you have to solve that first order equation. Again you have to go solve the second order equations. So I used Runge-Butcher method. That is it's the extension of Runge-Kutta method. When you see we previously have Euler's method for solving the first order integration method. So if you have a function like that, the Runge-Butcher method, how a second order equation has to converge to first order equation, and use these equations for the assumptions. You need to have the parameters for the your equation, and finally calculate what will be the output of that. So if you see that if a simulation model for that, the parameter has to be calculated for the Runge-Kutta methods. If Runge-Kutta-Butcher method, Runge-Kutta method you can solve, but Runge-Butcher method is more accurate method than the Runge-Kutta methods. Euler's is very simpler. Euler's integration is integration of the mathematical model of robot arm into the simple model. Now, but this is very accurate if you done with the Runge model. Similarly, you find out for the first order equation for that one, calculate each parameter of that, then make a solution of the change of the y and calculate the second order equation and put in the first order equation. Then we get to know the mathematical model, simulation model. Like if you see that if it is angular distances versus how much it is there for the mathematical model and what you've done from the numerical model. So if you have a mathematical model, if you have assumptions, you have everything, your data at the top, as angle, everything you made into simulation, that by taking the few assumptions that it is a second order differential equations. Then you develop this model as per the torque and different torques and the angular movements, and the previous we take the previous angular movements. If you predict the future angular movements, and if it goes missing, the similar kind of structure for the ANN model. So if you use the same model, then we need to predict. I'll tell you the steps wise. Like first, taking the mathematical dynamic equations, solving those mathematical dynamic equations into the simulation model, and the simulation model to the getting a data. After getting the data, that from the simulation data, you are applying your AI model to predict what will be the thing. Here I've done prototype for the two-link robot arm. It is two-link robot arm. It's a simpler way of understanding the robot arm. If you increase, if you increase that length, what do you call, instead of two-link, three-link or another parameter, automatically complex increases. So here I'm not disclosing those equations because I'm working on that now. So as my thesis of my PhD. So I want to say that this is a basic prototype model. How it worked out, how a mathematical model has solved the prediction of that future robotic arm action on that. So it's for we used to say that it's one of the fault diagnosis thing, that what is happening in that. If you predict that, it will be easy for you take decisions if at all robot arm is not taking decisions correctly. So the similarly kind of number of input nodes I've used, like not for the A model, but this is for the basic prototype model. I got the good accuracy out of it. So it's almost predicted that it's giving the same way that a mathematical model, if something is happening. And if you have a disturbance of adding some disturbance of that also, it is almost giving the same one. So these are the two functions are there. With these works, I've published few works. So I just want to conclude here just with two examples. One is bioinformatics and robotics. It's more. Please questions, please. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if there are any questions, please go ahead.
Sir, Kiran garu, Sitaram Babu sir.
Hello.
Nice session, sir.
Hello.
Thank you, sir.
Please ask, sir.
Thank you, sir.
In your ANN models, the weights you have taken as unities.